Okay, I've got my setup here for starting Naalbinding with the Oslo stitch. Going to do this in parts, so this will be the setup. I've got my 100% merino wool, about a meter, a bit less, torn from one of the cakes to make for easier felting later on. And I've got a tapestry needle. So, from what I've read and seen, I need to make a knot like that. Make the loop nice and big. Insert my thumb. Hold the tail with my pinky. Keep the crossed over side on the left and keep the working yarn across the front. The working yarn has the torn edge, and I will thread that through the needle and ready to start on the Oslo stitch. So from this original position, I'm going to take the yarn, thread it through underneath the crossing section, keeping tension with the pinky, and pull it. So now on my thumb there are 2 loops. The new one is below the original one, and I'm supposed to flick that off. Okay, for stitch number 1, you take the needle, you go away from you through the bottom loop, twist 180 degrees, go underneath the working loop and the working yarn, and then you pull that all the way through. So now I've got 2 loops in the working yarn. Next we take this and we flick it off, and that is loop number 2, stitch number 2. So continuing in this manner, back, forward through the back one, twist around, go through. That stays there, and this goes off. Okay. And then back loop, around, under, under. That does not look right. Okay, so try number 2. You set it up once again with the knot. Long enough tail to hold with your pinky for tension at first. So, do the thumb, crossing on the left, hold with the pinky like that. Oh, and this goes this way. Whoop. This way on the left side. Okay. Okay. Okay, so fix that. Set up correctly now. Take the yarn underneath the crossover, pull tight, and this loop goes underneath the original. Kick that off. Okay. Alrighty. We've got the back loop, the normal loop, and the working yarn. So, forward through the back loop, twist, go underneath both of these, and keeping this working yarn to the right side. I think that's where I messed up before. Tighten that bottom loop. Throw off the old one. And once again, we got back loop, front loop, and working yarn. Going underneath that once again. And kicking it off. Under, under, under. Over. Under, under, under. It's a bit tricky to control the tension compared to what I'm used to. Okay, so I've got my length. I've made quite a few chains at this point, but I'm running out of working yarn. So the reason why wool is important is because the microscopic structure of wool means that the individual fibers link together very well. And felting is, it's when you add moisture and heat to yarn, wool yarn, and make it stick to itself. So it becomes tighter, more durable, and in this case can make you help you add more. So I've got two ends that have both been torn rather than cut, and I'm going to wet my fingers with some water here, try to add the water, and rub it together. Use friction as heat. Might have added too much water. Let's see. It worked. So now we have another arm span length of yarn, and we can continue with our chain. That's where it joined. So, got a new location this time. Next I need to join these ends into a loop so I can work in the round. Originally, this project was supposed to be a hat, but I was a little bit too ambitious with that idea, so I'll be turning this into a headband. So what I need to do is make sure it's got no twists or turns, making sure it's all going the right way, bringing the end up, holding that in place. I get my thread ready. I've got the back loop, front loop, and working yarn here. And to join, I need to pick up the first stitch here, go through, and then complete the stitch as normal. So going forwards, looping around, going under, and backwards. That goes underneath. Slip that off. There we go. And I keep doing this all the way around. So pick up the next stitch, back under, through, up. Yeah, and I will keep working on this, show you some updates. So here I am back at the beginning, done 2 rows, started on the 3rd. Here's the end right here. So this step on the beginning and end of the project, it's typical of Naalbinding, and that's how you can tell specifically that something was Naalbinded, Naalbound, I'm not sure. I did twist a little bit. Hopefully you can't see where that happened. Here is the final project without the ends woven in. It works as a headband. It is a little bit small because when I started, I made the stitches larger, and as I went on, they got more tight and smaller, so it is a bit of a stretch, but it works. Here on the ends, you can see the little steps from the beginning and the end. Hopefully when I weave them in, it'll be slightly less noticeable, but that slant will still be there. I really like how the stitches make these V's. I think it's really neat. It looks a little bit like a knit stitch, but not quite, because they're not perfectly symmetrical.